Good evening runners, and welcome back to another video from me, That Running Girl. In today's video I'm going to be doing a first impressions review of the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2 versus the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. Now there are quite a few similarities between these shoes, but quite a few stark differences as well, and I'm going to talk through the pros and cons of these shoes and how I am going to use them, whether I'm actually going to use them, whether I'm going to send one back, why I'm going to be sending them back, how I got onto using these shoes, and all that good stuff. So if anyone has watched my latest video, which was a whole month ago now, I was reviewing the Nike Pegasus, which is the classic Pegasus shoe. You know, it's not turbo, it's not like the fast shoe, it's literally just the Pegasus classic shoe. Now, I didn't really get on with that shoe, although I made a review video about it and said that it was really good for training runs and base mileage in general, like a day-to-day trainer. I didn't particularly get on really well with it because I have worn racing flats for over 10 years and it just stripped the enjoyment out of running for me, and when I got into races it actually hurt the midfoot area of my feet because I don't know, it just seemed too built up in the midfoot area for me, and I just prefer to use a racer to train in. So I didn't get on with the Nike Pegasus Classic, and I was still looking around for something that would be a similarity to the Luna Racer, Luna Tempo, Luna Epic, all of the Lunas that I have worn for the past decade, which I always go on about on this channel. So I spoke to a few friends, running friends, and they suggested the Nike Pegasus Turbo. They said if you didn't get on with the Nike Pegasus Classic shoe, you'll probably get on with the Turbo. And the reason for this is that the Turbo, you know, name kind of gives it away. It's the accelerated version of the Pegasus. It's faster, it's lighter, it's more responsive, and it's more race ready. So, being the logical person I am, I went and I ordered a Nike Pegasus Turbo used pair from eBay. And my reasoning for this is I would run in the Nike Pegasus Turbo off eBay. I haven't spent much money on them, and I would experience the ride of them before actually buying the new shoes off the Nike website, because these were £9 and these were £145. So quite a steep difference there. So I haven't actually got around to wearing these yet, so this is literally just a first impressions review. But given that I've run for 18 years now and I've run 29 marathons, as soon as I slip my foot into a shoe, I can tell whether it's going to be good for me running or not. And the first impressions, I'll just talk through the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2 first. First impressions of this shoe. When I first had it delivered and I first got it out of the packaging, I just instantly thought, wow, that actually feels like a racer. That feels like a Luna Racer. Wherever you pick it up from in the shoe, which I feel is a really good test for running shoes, you know, picking it up from the forefoot or the midfoot or the heel, wherever you pick this shoe up, it feels lightweight. And it will do, because it's 7.2 ounces and Luna Racers are roughly 7 ounces. So it's actually the same kind of weight category as a racer. Another thing that I really love about this shoe, and is really similar to the Luna Racer, is that it's really minimal in the construction around the tongue area and where you actually slip your foot into. It literally just feels like a slipper. There's literally hardly any material there at all, and this lightweight material here is really breathable and just feels really like feather light on your feet. It feels like you've got nothing on, and it literally just makes your feet feel like you want to go out and run. It's that feeling of, you know, when you get into a race, like, and you're just putting on your bib number at the start, and as soon as you start pinning those safety pins through your vest, you're just feeling race ready. That is how my feet feel when they slip into one of these shoes. It's got the Nike Zoom sole on the bottom, so it's relatively responsive and firm, but it still has that flex in it. So if you're like me and you run on your forefoot, it still has that ability to allow you to toe off with like maximum impact. You know, you're not going to be like running like this because you're able to run like this. But interestingly, carbon running shoes, because they're all tilted like this these days, I feel it's absolutely unnecessary. And I know I'm saying that as an old school runner, and probably newer runners are like, oh, I love carbon shoes, I love the tilt on them, it makes me run on my forefoot. But here's an idea. Personally, I think that you should build the efficiency and consistency of running on your forefoot naturally in like a neutral shoe before you just force it with like a carbon plated, like an unnatural tilt. Because if you start wearing like a carbon plated running shoe with an unnatural forefoot tilt and you're not actually a forefoot runner, you're literally just going to give yourself injuries. So that's one thing I will mention. So yeah, first impressions are, I think this is an incredible shoe, and I'm really happy to have found it, given that you can't buy these anymore. And I will be adding it to my racing roster. But yeah, I don't know why Nike discontinued these. They've obviously evolved them in terms of the shoe I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I don't know whether anyone else agrees, but I just feel like Nike keep evolving shoes, and they almost do it at such a rate that people can't keep up with. And then the shoes that runners, you know, are so personal to different runners. Everyone has their own favorite shoe, and when a shoe is discontinued, then it's a complete nightmare and you can't find it anywhere. And yeah, there needs to be some kind of like lockdown on like Nike discontinuing shoes, because I do think it's problematic for people, not just me. So yeah, the lacing system is pretty traditional in this shoe. It's quite a slimline profile, so I would say it's a relatively narrow shoe, and it doesn't have a huge amount of cushioning within the shoe. It's literally just like a very thin sock liner. I would say it's actually a thinner sock liner than in the Lunar Racer, but yeah, other than the Lunar Racer, this is the only shoe that I've felt has come close in terms of feeling like super lightweight. And, you know, being from Nike, obviously I could go to a different brand and find a racer, but I want to stick with Nike because I've been running in those shoes without any injuries for over a decade, and I just trust the quality and craftsmanship of those shoes, because I have ordered other shoes from other brands in the past and I've just found really clunky and plasticky, so I just stick with my Nikes for now. But yeah, the sole of these shoes has a kind of firm sort of pod-like structure. Again, this one is pretty worn out, as you can see, because I bought them like a trial pair from eBay. But the pod-like structure on the bottom looks like it would offer quite a moderate amount of grip, probably better grip than Lunar Racers, which have the little kind of foam square pods on the bottom. But yeah, I definitely feel like these will deliver an exciting running ride, as opposed to the Pegasus Classic, which I felt really clunky when I was running in them, and I definitely felt like they encouraged me to heel strike, which is never a good thing. So on with the comparison between the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2, which we've just reviewed, and the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature. Flyknit Next Nature. And anyone that says that without getting 8.5 minutes into a video and gets the name wrong wins a prize. So onto this model. I got it in this really nice kind of purple, berry and kind of aqua blue colorway, which I think is super nice, and it's really refreshing to see, because I feel like Nike really went through a period of you know, producing really boring looking shoes. They were either boring looking or they were like so space age and carbon plated that I just wasn't interested. So it's actually nice to see like a moderate, relatively lightweight shoe again in nice colors. So again, this is an evolution of the Nike Pegasus Turbo, and I think the main selling point of this shoe, obviously the fact that it's called Nature, is that 50% of the materials in this shoe are recycled. And if you look close up on the sole, you can actually see, I haven't ever run in these shoes, but you can see that it's almost like a pretty beat up kind of sole construction, and this is obviously due to the manufacturing of all the different things that have gone into the shoe to make it recyclable. So obviously that's a huge plus point for the environment, but how's that going to translate to your run? Now, the first thing I noticed when I compared both of these shoes is the weight difference. And initially I thought, oh, maybe I'm just being paranoid. Maybe they're, you know, the same kind of weight. But they're really not. If you look them up, the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2 weighs in at about 7.2 ounces, whereas the Nike Pegasus Turbo Next Nature weighs in at about 9.2 ounces. So that's obviously a good few ounces difference. And you might not think that that makes that much difference, but trust me, when you're racing or even when you're doing distance, you know, you're going to really feel that weight difference. And for me, especially, like I said at the start, when you hold this shoe at different points, so you can really sort of analyze whether it's sort of lightweight or not by holding it at different points in the shoe. And it is lightweight, you can feel that at different points. Whereas when you hold this shoe in different points, if you hold it in the midfoot, it's not too bad. If you hold it in the forefoot, it's not too bad. If you hold it in the heel, it literally feels like a stability shoe. So it feels super, super, super cushioned and heavy in that heel area. And also it's way more built up in terms of cushioning in the heel, which may be good for people who, you know, have trouble with shoes rubbing or like Achilles problems. But if you want a stripped back racer, the difference between these two shoes in the heel area is really quite significant. And also when I've tried this shoe on and just walked around in it, I can literally feel like it's encouraging me to run on my forefoot. So if I went out running in these shoes as a natural forefoot runner, I'm going to be encouraged to land more on my midfoot and more on my heel, which really isn't a good thing for me because I am a natural forefoot striker. So that's just A, going to strip the enjoyment out of my run, and B, it's going to possibly cause injuries because it's encouraging me to run in a way that is unnatural to me. The lacing system is different to the Pegasus Turbo 2 Classic as well, in that it has the fly knit construction over the laces. So this, when you tie it up, is obviously helping to lock down the foot and lock down the foot within the shoe. But also I feel like that comes at a bit of a compromise to the shoe, because it means that both shoes are narrow at the front, like this part is narrow, but it means it's even more narrow because it's locking the foot down when you're inside the shoe. And also the tongue part of the shoe does not detach at all. It's all like one construction, whereas with the Nike Pegasus Turbo, the tongue is detachable, so you've almost got like custom flexibility here in terms of how you want to wear it. But with this, there's literally no custom flexibility. It's literally just locked in, and then your feet are locked in with the fly knit lacing, and you know, that's the way it is. So yeah, I also feel like when you put your foot within this shoe, it definitely feels like the drop is higher from the heel to the forefoot. So if you measured the heel to the forefoot drop on these two shoes, I don't think there's a huge amount of difference in it, but there definitely is a difference in it. As you can see in the picture, it seems way more built up and doesn't seem elevated in the way that carbon plated running shoes are elevated, but it's definitely going in that direction of the trend of like carbon plated shoes and massive like platform elevation, which obviously helps some runners in terms of like being up and feeling, you know, springy and bouncy. But for me personally, I just like to be like a low profile and close to the road, and have like a low profile racing status when I'm on the road with my feet. Another thing that I didn't like with these shoes when I was walking around the house in them and sort of jumping up and down and sort of running on spot on the carpet in them, is that this foam recycled material feels really like noisy. You can literally hear, it's like, you know, when you get like a load of polystyrene packaging of something you order, and you can kind of like hear like the kind of like the squeakiness of like all the bits together. It almost sounds like that when you kind of run in these, which is kind of off-putting. And it's not so bad if you're listening to music or anything, but if you're at a race, and especially if it's wet and this is kind of squeaking all over the ground, I think that that would probably annoy me. It's got a similar sole pattern. No, it doesn't. It has an entirely different sole pattern. It has an entirely different sole pattern to the base of the Nike Pegasus Turbo. So you can see the difference here in that the Pegasus Turbo has little like diamond pods, and the Pegasus Turbo Next Nature has little rectangular pods. I'm not really sure about the difference between that, if I'm completely honest, but it looks like there's more of a slightly elevated grip pattern on the Next Nature. Also, one comment that I've heard about these online and read on review sites is because of the Flyknit construction, they're really not that breathable, and some people have detailed them as being really hot to running, which is obviously not going to be ideal, because most of the time when you're running, you need to stay cool. And especially in the spring and summer, I can't imagine running in a shoe that's going to be hot. It almost feels like a kind of sweatshirt material that it's made out of. And I've had Flyknit shoes in the past that have been really breathable because they've had like aerated holes in them. But this, aside from this tiny panel here at the front, doesn't have any aerated holes in it. So your feet are going to be getting hot in these, and they're going to have no way of getting cool again. So yeah, personally, I feel like the next Pegasus Turbo Next Nature, to me, feels like a cushioned, neutral stability shoe. I don't feel like it has any racing potential. I would not want to race in this shoe. But I feel like it could probably be an all-round decent miler, and especially good if you want something responsive, but also that's going to give you support and cushioning. Whereas I feel like the Nike Pegasus Turbo 2 is definitely more of a stripped back racing profile, and is going to offer an enjoyable ride, going to be fun to running, and probably help you set some decent PBs. Anyway, I hope you've found those reviews helpful. I'm quite torn on what to do my next running video on, because I still haven't documented my 29th marathon, which was last October, and I also haven't done a race since then. My next race is going to be on 29th of January, which is a 7-mile road race. But yeah, I really do want to do like a sit down video and talk about how the Abingdon Marathon, my 29th marathon, went, because it feels like it was a long time ago now, but it definitely feels like I need to talk about the trials and tribulations and the kind of how I feel like my running and racing especially has changed, especially as I've had COVID 4 times, and I feel like it's really been at a detriment to my racing, and I should probably talk about that on this channel, because I want to keep this channel all, realistic, and don't want to be putting any content out there that I feel like makes people feel like they can't achieve in running, because I feel like the most important thing to do on this channel is to encourage all different kinds of runners, and just help someone get out there and put their shoes on and enjoy running as much as I do. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.